Heaven is eternity with God. Hell is eternal separation from God. And I can't even comprehend what eternal separation from God would be like. Mm-hmm. Because in this life, we are not eternally separated from God.
So today, we interrupt your open seat to bring you a new seat.
Yeah, I'm Father Mike Newman. I'm the pastor of Holy Family Parish, and it's my pleasure today not to be in the open seat, but the hot seat, in which we are going to be taking and answering your questions. I think my life is always the hot seat.
I think you just leave your car seat warmers on a little too long, buddy. It will be a pure joy to sit across from you and watch these questions make you a little warm.
I'm ready.
So today, we are starting the hot seat.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long, and I've heard these promos on the podcast for so many weeks, and it's like I'm in my car, and it's freezing outside, and I've just pushed the buttons, and my booty is warm.
On that note, we're just going to jump right in.
That probably should be edited out. Okay, let's keep going.
So we put all the questions in a little basket, so we're just randomly asking. These were submitted online, they were submitted on Facebook, they were submitted by people in the question box.
Okay, and these are co-questions, right? Not just to me, like you get to answer these too?
Well, I don't think you want me to answer the first question.
Okay.
Okay. What is your favorite part of being a priest? You want me to answer?
No, just in case the bishop is listening, let's not. Let's just hold back on that. Or my brother, the very Reverend Joe Newman, Provincial Superior. Let's avoid those. People ask me this a lot, and I would say, I think for me, the best part is actually walking with people. Like, that's what gives me the most joy. Like this morning before we did the podcast, I drove out to Sand Creek Cemetery with Father Tom. We did a committal for a family where we placed the cremains of someone who died recently into the ground. You know, it was freezing cold outside. We all get there. We're talking, we're laughing, we're praying. Then we drove out to their house and we had lunch together. And it was just a wonderful time. And I guess for me, what's so beautiful about that is that I see people at those situations or when we're out about in Adrian, and then we all worship together too. So it's not just like the sacramental stuff, though I love that, but it's more the whole encompassing of people, you know, in all moments.
The community.
The community aspect that's just so strengthened. So walking with people, you know, the Pope says like accompanying people, but on another sense too, it's the privilege of people allowing me in. And also giving me the grace to be with them. To be with people in those moments, so powerful and so beautiful.
So I'm just a little offended.
Yes.
That you said that. I mean, that's very beautiful answer. A tear came to my eye. But I'm just a little offended because I thought for sure staff meetings would be the number one thing because you like to torture us with them.
Well, I think important meetings to set the agenda and the goals for the next couple of weeks are very important things. So, I mean, staff meetings are necessary. We have to do them so that we can keep doing the good things at the parish.
Well, this is a very important follow-up question to that one.
All right.
How can I be kinder to my friends?
I think maybe you should answer that.
No more staff meetings. No, I think it's easy to say everyone should be kind, but it's very difficult to practice.
Yeah.
And one way I think we can just be kinder is to smile at each other.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
Right. I don't have to say anything. It doesn't make me uncomfortable.
Right.
I just smile.
It's amazing how, you know, when we see people and we just acknowledge their goodness or just acknowledge them. For example, I was just out with Father Tom at an event. And so we're at this event, and, you know, this is typical. We go to this place, and there's like 40 people, and it's the two of us, and we probably know 3 people, and the other 37 people we don't know. And, you know, if you go to a lot of events like this is common for people, right? I'm a little nervous sometimes at those events. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to sit with? Like, how's this going to go? Father Tom's just like, hi, my name's Tom. What's your name? And then I'm like, that's it. I'm just acknowledging you as a person. Not ignoring you, not like pulling out my phone and be fake busy, but like, let's just acknowledge each other. So I think in parallel to your answer, just recognizing that. Remember when we used to walk down the street and say hi to people? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not as common anymore, but just that basic acknowledgement, I think, is an important thing.
Father Mike.
Yes.
And Katie.
Oh, perfect.
What is your favorite animal?
Skunk.
Oh, dear Lord. Help us now.
I remember when I was running the novitiate, which is a program for young men who are going to become oblates, right? We were at Camp de Sales, and we had just gotten to the point in the small chapel there where they were going to be received. And the reception into religious order is a really big deal. The provincial is there. The novice master, which was me, was there. The provincial council's there. All the oblates who can come are there. It's a huge day. And we're going over to do preparations. And all of a sudden we realize that the entire chapel had been attacked by a couple skunks. And it stunk everywhere. So we're opening windows. We're doing all this stuff, trying to clear this smell out. And then we did evening prayer in the stinky chapel, night prayer in the stinky chapel. Then we went to bed. And then in the middle of the night, it poured down rain. And it knocked all of that smell was gone. And I was just like, wow, isn't that just amazing, Lord? But on a more non-story level, I guess, I got distracted. Happens. I just love the fact that the skunk, it looks cute, but you get up to it, it's deadly. It is deadly. And it's just like a metaphor for life. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this person will be, oh, no, I made a mistake with that one. We're moving away.
You want a name drop?
No.
Oh, jeez. Thought we got one there.
Ann Katie. This was an Ann Katie. Nice try.
Anything without wings, and anyone who knows me will appreciate that. I hate anything that flies. Yeah. Anything with wings, I just don't have an appreciation for. I think Noah should have left him off the ark. But in all reality, I think killer whales are very fascinating. I stand in awe of them and just the amount of spirituality that they hold. And
right.
It's very deep. And, I mean, Free Willy, who doesn't like that movie, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. But I think it's probably killer whales, honestly.
Killer whales, wow. Reminds me of the Jonah retreat that's coming soon that we're doing. A whale of a tail, even though in the Hebrew it's not a whale, it's a large fish. Chagadoth. We don't know what that is, just a large fish. Could have been a whale.
Could have been something Father Tom caught.
Could very well have been. In fact, he's got some fish in his room. It looks like they're big enough they could have swallowed something.
Fish in his room?
Well, they're mounted. Mounted fish, yeah.
I can imagine the smell if you had fish in your room.
Mm-hmm.
So, next question. What is your favorite food?
My mom's spaghetti.
Okay, Eminem.
That would be it. And it's, I tell the story with that because when my mom would make spaghetti, you would get 1 pound, no more, no less, 1 pound of ground beef. You would get a certain kind of Italian sauce that's very mass marketed and very watery. And that would go in, and sometimes she'd pour a little extra water in the can if she had to feed all of us and dump that on the top. And then we would have sometimes mushrooms, which as a kid we were like, ew, mushrooms. But now I love with mushrooms. And you had to have green beans. Even though it was spaghetti, you always had to have a vegetable in the Newman household. Even if we ordered pizza, she would pull out the pan and make green beans.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which used to drive us crazy because there'd be a lot of water, and it would make our pizza,
watery.
But nope, she's like, nope, you got to have vegetable. We're like, but we have green pepper on the pizza. Doesn't count. But yeah, my mom's spaghetti is still a powerful memory for me.
Luckily, I don't have to answer that, so we're moving on. I mean, really, if I had to choose food, I think it would probably be tacos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially here.
Can't go wrong.
Mm-mm. Oh, no.
All right, so is there an animal heaven? Or are they just in normal heaven?
So is there a special heaven for animals?
Basically. Mm-hmm.
Or are they just in normal heaven?
Uh-huh.
Oh, boy. This is I would say, a highly contested question. I remember a couple years ago, there was a kerfuffle, we'll just say that, because the Holy Father said something, and then paper A interpreted it this way, and then paper B interpreted it a different way. And then Catholic social media, not the company, but the different groups on Catholic social media just had a field day. So let's dive into this, I guess. So when we're talking about heaven, we are talking about a place, theologically speaking, where there is a body-soul connection. So that's one level of it, right? So that for us as humans, heaven is the full entrance into the presence of God, which means that your body and your soul are both there. You're full. The traditional Catholic teaching is that animals do not have souls as humans have souls. So in that sense, if you taking that school of thought, there are no animals in heaven. But you say that and it's like, wait!
I was just going to be offended. Like Fido's not going to be next to me.
Well, and so here's where we get into the whoa comment from everybody. So here's another way that I like to think about it. If heaven is the fullness of the encounter with God mediated to me, this is in the catechism paragraph, 1,000 something, 20, 25, something like that. So don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. But it's God unmediated. And all that means is that for us to know God right now, God has to come through channels. So one way would be like Jesus Christ, the fullness of humanity and God present to us so we can see it. We are unable to encounter God as God is. At death, we'll have what's called the beatific vision, which means we will be able to see God as God is, unmediated. What is that like? No one knows. We like to say we have this idea, but I mean, I don't think we're going to know till we're there.
I was just going to say, I don't think you had any pets growing up that you were close to because you wouldn't feel that way, but it's all right.
Well, but here's the way I would say that. I think if God is love, and there was love between an individual and a pet, ought we to hope that that same relationship would carry on to eternity? I mean, would it be unthinkable? No, I think the possibility exists there.
Sure.
I would never want to say, you know what, you guys, I have all the answers for what heaven is. So just like listen to me. Like, no. I think that would be like the height of ego, right? To say that. So I can't.
Well, we'll cross the Rainbow Bridge maybe one day, get reunited. Have you ever been to the Holy Land? And if so, what was your favorite part of the trip?
I have never been. We were supposed to go. We actually had a parish pilgrimage. I had just signed the deal.
Poor Rocio Vasquez.
I know. We were just ready to go with this group. And then like 4 days after signing the deal and getting the poster, which is still in my office on the side, the war broke out.
So you're to blame for the Holy War right now.
No, I don't think Holy Family Parish deciding to go to the Holy Land.
Oh, no, not Holy Family Parish. You signed the contract. Father Michael Edward Newman, OSFS, is responsible.
I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But because of that, we've not been able to go to the Holy Land. And that's the real unfortunate thing, though, is that we cannot go because of the fighting and everything going on there. Which is why it's nice, like, when Wafa al-Safari and her group comes down, that we're able to support them every year.
Right.
You know, the woodworkers in Bethlehem and whatnot.
We certainly send our prayers.
Absolutely.
You know, it would be beautiful to go. So, you want me to answer this one too? Because I'll say it to you and then you can tell me. When did you know you wanted to be a priest?
Well, I would say for the full answer, you can take a look at the podcast that I'm in, The Making of Oblate Miracles in Mexico. Great title, Maria, which just dropped a little while ago.
Yes.
But I would say the very first inkling that this would be possible, I can remember, was when I was in kindergarten. The very first thought. And I can remember in kindergarten, we were at Christ the King Grade School, Toledo, Ohio. We were in kindergarten. We didn't go to Mass every week, you know, like most of the Catholic world.
Heathen.
Yeah, so we did not. But it was like once every 2 weeks or something we would go. And they didn't have enough chairs in the church at that point, so we had to pick up our own chairs and carry them down the hall from the kindergarten to the church. And I can remember going, this is such a long walk.
And now it's like 3 steps.
It probably is. Yeah, now
hall,
it's
right?
not. But you know, when you're 5, it's like, this is just so far. But I can remember we did that. Uh-huh. And it was a mass. And you know those memories you have earlier that just like don't go away. They just like are imprinted in you. So I just have this memory of the priest doing something up there. And me just saying to myself, I want to do that. And that's the very first memory I had of it. And of course it developed over time. My mom tells a story when we were in the car one day when I was young. She said, what do you guys all want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a priest and I want to get married. And my mom was like, well,
talk to the Anglicans.
That's right. It's not going to happen in the Roman church. But yeah, that was a serious.
Your mom said, Mike, we better switch churches.
No, my mom would not say. My dad would not say that. My mom wouldn't either, just for clarification. My mom wouldn't say that either. Sorry, Mom.
Stay tuned. Your parents are going to be on the podcast.
I know, thank God. They can correct any errors that I have spoken. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who submitted this question, but I will thank you for eternity. Katie, what is your favorite color?
Oh, I want to thank that person, too, on behalf of all of us who've wanted to hear you speak more on the podcast, which is many. Someday, hopefully, we can flip open seat and we can interview you.
Well, I'm looking for people who I want to interview me, and it's not you. You know too much. No.
Yeah, probably better not. No. Anyway, what is your...
My favorite color is probably blue, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Another question.
Okay.
Katie, are kids allowed to be on the podcast? So they are. In fact, we have some episodes with kids coming.
Oh, great.
We're working on recording.
Great.
Part of it is scheduling, but
Right.
you would have to have your parents or a guardian's
Right,
permission
correct,
in writing
correct.
before we could do someone on the podcast. So there are kids coming, and we've done kids. Shaina Ramirez did the podcast, and they're not kids, but they were my kids at one time, DJ and Veronica. So
Yes.
we have had kids, but there are kids coming,
We're
right?
talking about kids in faith formation. Faith
That's,
formation
I think, the
students?
presumed question.
That'd be wonderful.
Everyone has a story to tell.
Right.
And I don't know their story. It's for them to tell. And I could think of nothing that would be more authentic in a conversation than a kid telling their story, right?
Yeah.
It is legit, true faith that gets them through things. So, yeah. In a world where there is so much evil and uncertainty, how would you go about trying to bring people back to the church?
That is a good question. It's funny we get this today. You know, we're in the middle of Be My Witnesses, Bishop Boyer's year-long current apostolic endeavor. You can get it by text message, by YouTube, by email. I seem to be getting all three for some reason.
It's on
So
Ascension
like-
Press, too.
It is on Ascension Press, yeah. He talks about that exact question. So he says the very first thing you do is pray. And the bishop talks about invoking the Blessed Virgin Mary. And he says this for two reasons. He goes, number one, he says Mary is never afraid to say yes to whatever God asks of her. And number two, he says Scripture oftentimes has Mary pondering in her heart or praying and then thinking about what the next step is to do. She does that at the Annunciation. She does that in Luke, in the Gospel. I think it's Luke after Jesus is born. Mary keeps everything in her heart. Then after the finding of the Christ child in the temple, Mary keeps everything in her heart. And then later, Acts of the Apostles, chapter 1, after Jesus is ascended to heaven, what I often forget, the Blessed Virgin and all the apostles and others go back into that upper room and they pray. And it's in their fervent prayer, and because of that the Holy Spirit comes down and we have that Pentecost event. So I think, for this question, what do we need to do to bring someone back into the church? I think first thing would be just to pray. Number one, to pray for ourselves. Sometimes we think that we have to do it. It's like, no one's going to do this if I don't do it. And sometimes that's very, very true. But sometimes, too, we are just a part of someone's journey, not the catalyst behind it. So I think to pray about this person and say, Lord, I want to know if you're inviting me to this. And also, as I'm praying, where are the areas in my life, too, that may need to be assisted, strengthened, corrected? Where else may you be calling me to a deeper holiness? It'd be very easy to say, hey, you should do this. You should come to church. Or, I'll say, I remember I did a retreat in Alabama this year for a bunch of people, and this question came up, and I said, what you don't want to do is start sending them books and other things that you have read that you think is helpful, because people are very busy and people get those and they're like, okay, thanks, and that doesn't do it. Right? It's personal encounter after the prayer, and just a very gentle patience and a walking with people. I'm reminded of the story of Saint Monica, who prayed for 30-some years for Saint Augustine. Right, and then there's Elizabeth Lisieux, who kept this diary. Her husband was not Catholic, she was Catholic, and she kept this diary all her life. She wanted him to convert, but she just kept praying for him. Then she dies. Then he finds her diary, reads it, and then eventually converts and becomes a priest later on too. So this very powerful thing. But to go in and say, I'm going to solve the problem. I'm going to make this work. It's all got to depend on me. That's just a recipe for disaster. And even a recipe for just saying, well, look how special I am. It's never about, look how many people I brought into the church or anything like that. At least as I think about it. I think a gentle word or a text message or, hey, I miss you. Let's just go out and talk after and while continuing to pray and walk with the person.
I think we've both been on Curcio.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
as many other people have.
Yep.
And the first step is not to actually invite someone, but it's to actually pray for that person.
Yeah.
Before you talk to God, talk to them, then invite them. And I think that's a perfect model for this kind of thing. The middle school kids, on a funny note, decided a couple years ago that maybe a good fundraiser would be to have the conversion of St. Paul experience. Right, so we'll put someone on a donkey, we'll hit them off, and then that, not a good fundraiser, nor is it a good idea to bring people into the church, right? I'm just going to whack you until you convert. And that could be consistently talking about it or whatever it is, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the very first step, I think you have to even to bring God into the picture before you can invite somebody.
I would definitely agree with that.
Okay. Was school ever hard for you?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Kindergarten wrecked you, did it?
I don't have many memories of kindergarten aside from that memory and a couple others. As a recovering perfectionist,
Oh, boy.
you know, like
We use the term recovering very loosely.
we're always in recovery. We're always trying to do better. I'm always like, I think I've done enough. No, you got to do more. And then it's like, no, we're good for today. We're good for today. No, it was hard. I remember things like math and science, right? I was always amazed by people who could capture those numerical abstract concepts that could be done in a step-by-step linear fashion. I always thought that was amazing. I always wanted to be able to get it, but it took a long time to realize my brain doesn't work that way with symbols. It does with words, but it doesn't with symbolic representations. Although one could argue that words are symbolic representations, but we're going to leave that for a different day. Thank you, Noam Chomsky. But we're not going to go there. But I struggled in that. I struggled in math. I struggled in science. English and language arts was very good. Languages were good. I remember when I started studying theology in Toronto, I really struggled. It wasn't until I actually started taking Hebrew that it just, something kicked in. We're like, oh, I can handle this school thing. I was in a comfort zone again. Like, you know, so I was like, oh, I can do this. And then when I did doctoral work, it was hard, but it was only hard because when you're doing advanced level work like that, it's got to be with something you're passionate about and you want to learn about. These are the classes that are dealing with stuff I'm actually encountering today. How do we do this? What are some workarounds? And you're creating new things. So it's very exciting, but it's also difficult because you're trying to create something brand new. And it's like, well, after how many millennia, what new thing, you know, Ecclesiastes, what new thing possibly could there be? And yet we still find them.
Yeah, we have new math, you know, after all.
Yeah.
Are you asking me if I struggled in school?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, as evidenced by staff meetings, I have a hard time focusing sometimes. I just start tuning out, right? And so that creates some problems, you know, when you're trying to learn. But unfortunately, I didn't really struggle until later on. And some of it was like I was just a demise to myself. Like we had a creative writing class and I wrote a creative story about some of my teachers and they didn't so much appreciate it, but they had to give me an A because it fit all the qualifications.
Yep. You checked off the rubric.
Yes. So that was the struggle was, you know, how to just keep myself in check a little bit too. Yeah. Why do the same people do the same things at Mass?
I'm guessing this is a ministries question, probably?
I'm presuming.
Okay, so like...
We can't
priests,
change you,
ministers,
so I presume.
well, we can. We have other priests that we can get come in. You know, that's easy to do. We had that at Christmas. You know, Father Tom was here, Father Pat was here, I was here.
Father Bob?
Father Bob was
yeah.
here. Yeah, everybody's like, boom. And then I remember the one summer, we had the Oblate Bishop who was here, and then we had the Superior General, then we had a mission appeal, and somebody came in the back and they said, do you even work here anymore?
Yes, we have like musical priests.
Yeah, I said, I learned how to do this. It's taking a long time. I'm learning. Some of it's just ministries, right? So just for ministries, period, some people say, well, how do I get into a ministry in the church? Okay. So I would say you want to talk to me or you, Kurt Weber, you know, email liturgy@holyfamilyadrian.org. That's another way. And then we'll get you trained, and then we'll get you in the ministry. Now, the ministries follows a scheduler. So it's an online schedule that's at a 3-month break. If you join up a ministry, say, in February, and the schedule runs January to March, you may not get until April, but there's possibility. But it's really because those people have expressed interest. If anybody's interested in lecturing, ushering, greeting, Eucharistic minister, sacristan, lead, choir, security team, we would love to have you. So don't ever think I'm not worthy. Like, that's something too, is I'm not worthy to do this. Or the flip side is I don't want to be bound by a schedule. Like, because that'll happen too. Like, I'll do it if I'm here. But that's tough for us, to be honest, because like if we're trying to run a service and all the ministers are if I'm here, well, it gets hard to do mass. I mean, I can't be like, I'll do mass if I'm here. Like and it's equal job.
We can't count on that for sure.
But it's equal job for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So just I'm going to be at this mass. And if not, then they put in a sub request like, hey, this is because of course stuff comes up, right? To say like this, no, stuff comes up, we'll adjust. But if
If you're sitting there going, I've always wanted to read, let's make it happen. And if you've been emailing me, because sometimes this happens, and I have not gotten back to you in enough time, email you, email Kurt. Like, there's multiple channels in. We will get you in. I don't want to hold the ministry back from it.
Yeah, or talk to us.
Yeah, that too.
At Mass.
Grab us after Mass.
I think one of the things, too, is you have opportunities at daily Mass, which are not scheduled, right?
Daily Mass is not scheduled. Well, I say that, but the people at daily Mass, they all have their own beautiful way of scheduling it. And I'm not going into that because they make it work perfect. Even Tuesday night Mass has a sign-up sheet. It's a bilingual Mass, and there's like English lector, Spanish lector.
Right.
And we never know who it's going to be, but it's always filled.
But it's also safe to say that every ministry needs volunteers.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. We could use tons.
Oh, we've received this numerous times. So what is the process of becoming a new parishioner?
Oh, that's a great question. And some of this, too, I know we've constantly had, and I think we have to get better at this. So let me just preface it with that. But I would say if you're coming to Holy Family, and you've just recently started coming, and you want to get involved in the church, but also just register as a parishioner, first thing would be to talk to any of the office staff who will get you a registration form. You can also find the registration form on the website. We have it under the Forms tab. Just this past week, I think Maria got 2 or 3 emails from people saying, I want to sign up. How do I do this? And she had sent them the registration form to sign up. It is still sad to my heart. We have not yet mastered a way to make it so you can fill the registration form out online. That is a goal at some point, but I mean that meaning before Jesus comes again. We're hoping to get that done.
Cheers.
But I don't ask me when. I don't know. Before the second coming. Unless he's going to come like in a second, in which case, well, it's not going to matter because we're all going to be in heaven with our dogs. So like, there's no problem. But I would say it's asking, send an email to the parish, come into the office and ask for a form.
Monday through Thursday,
Monday through
9
Thursday,
to 4.
9 to 4.
We're not closed for lunch.
No, we're always open at that point. Come on in. We would be happy to sign you up. I think one of the amazing things though for us as a parish is the amount of new parishioners we have, and also the amount of what I would call visitors. Although sometimes I think it's visitor, but it's not. It's just that I never noticed it. Like last week I said, "Oh my gosh, welcome to my family. So good to see you." I got their name and they said, "Oh Father, I've been here for like 30 years." And I was like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." But people are starting to say, "Well, you know, we've never had a reason to interact." I said, "Well, we have a reason now." You know, and I'm going to do my best to remember your name by next week. You know, knock on wood with that. But for that.
And who wouldn't want to register as a parishioner? I mean, you get one of these really amazing mugs.
You do get an amazing mug. The welcoming committee meets with you. We work with you on new opportunities here at the parish, right? For ministry, like we just talked about how to get involved. But also all the social stuff, flock note, you know, texting Holy Family Adrian to 84576. So I'm getting the thumbs up, 84576. And really just keeping in the know. The blessing of where we are in Lenawee County, I think, as opposed to like other places like Toledo where other oblates are, other churches are, Lansing or whatever. In Lenawee County, we're blessed that most of these towns around here have a Catholic church. And people may go to different churches or whatnot, but we all know who the Catholics are. And so that's just a blessing because it's just a tighter community focus, you know, like here we are together or someone moves. We had somebody move in and I called their previous parish just to say they're on our roll, you can take them off your roll. And the person on the line said, "Oh, we love Fulana. She was one. You're getting such a wonderful right?" And it's just that interchange that's just so powerful.
Well, let me ask this.
Yeah.
What if I don't register as a parishioner and I just show up at Mass? What's the difference?
So you can do that. You can just show up at Mass. Like there's no problem with doing that. And another thing, people talk about contributions. You can submit a contribution in cash into the basket. If you do that, though, we don't have any way of tracking that for you for charitable tax rebates, etc. But I would say, you know, oftentimes, suppose someone asks you, "I want to be a godparent," or "I want you to be a confirmation sponsor," right? And what's going to happen, especially if it's another parish, they're going to ask what's called a letter of suitability. And a letter of suitability means that you are a Catholic in good standing at Church X,
right?
Which also means the pastor recognizes you, may not know you, but you know that face, right? You're on the rolls. It just opens up those opportunities.
Sure.
So if you've been coming to Mass but you're not registered, and then someone has to be a godparent, and then you come in and I go, "Well, you're not on the roll." What does that mean? No letter? No, but it does mean
we need to strengthen our relationship a little bit more together.
We do those letters here too, right? So
frequently. I did 4 last week.
But I mean, we request them of our own parishioners
Correct.
too, right? So it's always very interesting to me. I'm like, well, do you know if Father knows who you are? I don't know who Father is. I'm like, well, we got to fix that a little bit.
I would say it's just that basis of a relationship. In other words, one of the common, I would say, misconceptions we have today is that my relationship with God is just me and God, and like I don't need anybody else, right? This will happen. I'll be talking to people and they'll go, you know, like, I don't know, I have to come to church because like I can go pray to God like in the woods or at home with my coffee, and I feel really close to God. Fair enough. Like I get it. 2 things to that though. Number one, when we talk about the essence of God as we understand God, God is a community of persons already, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So God is one, yet at the same time 3. And what that means is that that relationship is fully present. And when we come to church and we're with all these other people, you know, one of the first things to recognize about that is that church is messy, which means you're not going to get it how you want it. You know, and that's hard. So like I go into church and, you know, it's like the church is too loud, the church is too soft, the church is too hot, the church is too cold. I get it. You know, I can't hear. The priest is too loud. The sermon's too short. Father talks too long, right? I like the music. I don't like the music. I don't like the language. I mean, all these things happen, but that's also the messiness of life. And in the midst of all that messiness and in that church, God is present. Because, you know, we would say that God is present in every single Mass in 4 specific ways. There are 4 ways God is present. Number 1, God is present in the congregation when they come together. God is present there. Why? Because every single person in that church is made in the image and likeness of God. And this extends to all people, not just people in a church, right?
Right.
The moment you are conceived, just Genesis 1:26-27, we are made in the image and likeness of God. And the idea behind this in the Hebrew is like God has stamped, kind of like a brand on cattle, just you don't see it, or a tattoo, right? Like you are branded God's. And nothing you do can destroy that image of God from you. And that's specifically a reason why the church has such strong teachings on life. All the teachings on life come from this very beginning segment that all of us are created in the image and likeness of God. So that would be that. Another way the church is present in the Eucharist. When the Eucharist is there, the Bible, but church is present. The Lord is present in the Word. Reading the Word. It's not like, you know, we used to say, like, when does Mass not count? You gotta, like, I remember this as a kid, we're like, when does Mass not count, Mom? You know, and it's like, you gotta come before the end of the Gospel. It's like the other question that'll come up with young people a lot is, how far can I go before it's a sin? Right? And I'm like, well...
Like, thought.
Number one, that's just a very awkward question, right?
Yes.
But we could handle it. But it's also asking the wrong question. And then the last one would be in the presider, in the priest, God is present. So God is present in the liturgy in multiple ways. And when we all gather together on Sunday or any day we're coming to celebrate liturgy, then we have the guarantee of the Lord that he is present. And even though we are imperfect, that's why we start the Mass with the penitential rite, because we are imperfect, even though the celebration itself sometimes might be imperfect. You know, the priest's homily is too long. I might be wearing the wrong color chasuble. That's happened a couple times. We're still getting the Eucharist. We're still hearing the Word. We're still experiencing God in each other and in the presider. And that's the fullness of the Christian life. And I think that's something that we often forget about in this age where I can watch any Mass I want on YouTube or sit alone privately when everything's to my liking. You know, I think it was C.S. Lewis or somebody, I don't remember who, but they said, like, when you're a good Christian, like, I'm a really good Christian when I wake up and I'm by myself. But the second I, like, walk outside and I meet somebody else, it's like, oh, now it's all getting tested.
That's true. There's some truth to this. Yeah, I don't really have a problem.
I don't know if I answered that. I don't even remember what the question was you asked me. Sorry for that tangent.
So, this is the one.
That's a big, okay, are you sure that's not, like, that's a big piece of paper?
It's big writing. Calm
Okay,
down. You'll
all
be
right.
fine. So we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of cremation.
Okay.
All right. So a friend told me you're not supposed to separate the ashes. But when I tell other Catholics, many either don't know or are surprised. And if they can be separated, can they still be buried in a cemetery? That's question 1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, you asked for the hot seat, so here
I
we
did. So we're in the hot seat. Okay. So This question is about cremation. Can I separate the ashes buried in the cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
can I wear some around my neck
Okay,
and put
got
some
it,
in the
got
cemetery, or bury somebody here and there, and
Got it. Okay.
or whatever? Throw
Okay.
them in the wind.
So looking at this, we can say it used to be way, I don't even know how far away in the past is, but the Catholics were supposed to be always what we would call traditional burial, which means the body is placed in a casket and is placed in the ground. And that is still the preferred way. That is not the only way anymore. Now a person can be cremated, provided the church teaches they're not being cremated for the wrong reason. Now, the wrong reason's not necessarily defined. It just says for the wrong reason. And here's the basic church teaching behind this, I think, is a powerful teaching. And again, it goes back to the idea of being made in the image and likeness of God. We have this belief that human beings are both body and soul, that there is a temporal part to our being, which would be our body, and there is an eternal part, which is our soul. This is a fundamental belief. The church actually places a great deal of emphasis on the importance of our physical corporeal body, meaning that the body is always to be reverenced, it's always to be treated with care, it is always to be respected. And you get this sometimes because you'll have some people who will say, like, well, you know, like the body's there, but the soul's like really the important thing. And the church is like, no, that's absolutely wrong. And the teaching on that is because post-death, at the resurrection, we will be not just a spirit, but a body and a soul united together. We'll be in the glorified body. I can't
Perfection.
wait to see my glorified body, right? I just can't wait. That was probably overshared, looking at your eyes right now, but I just can't wait. I'm feeling awkward right now. We're just going to keep moving on.
I'm in the hot seat. I don't know.
But the church gives a lot of credence to that. So because of that, when someone is cremated and the body is reduced to ash, that ash is still seen as the body. So it must be treated with the utmost respect. Mm-hmm. So the church is going to say the utmost respect means that when we have the ash, that ash is to be taken and is to be interred somewhere, into a place. So in other words, we're talking about into a cemetery, or into a cremation niche in the cemetery, into the ground, but into a physical location.
And only one.
And only one. It is not to be
I can't separate.
We want to scatter grandma's ashes over her favorite tree up here, and I want to wear some around my neck. And the church is like, let's not do that. Like let's keep all of the body
Together.
as a sign of respect for God. Now, and some people will sometimes say, well, that's so at the end of the world, like God can just raise up the dead from one place. And yes, but God is God, so God can bring it however God's going to bring it, right? It's not that as much as just respect for the body. That's the key thing. So yeah, we don't want to be divvying up anybody.
Darn, I was really hoping to be buried in Adrian and my lake house up north. By the way, if you believe that, I got oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. All right, I recently heard the cremains also have to be buried within 2 weeks. Is there a specific time frame?
Cremains are to be buried as soon as they're able. So, and I'm talking to people about this. So, for example, right now it's January, and sometimes we'll have cremains where the families like spread around the United States, and they all want to gather together for this. So in that case, we're not going to be doing a burial right away. We'll set a date in the future to do the burial. Okay, that's fine. Usually the cremains they remain at the funeral home, and then when the appropriate date comes, we come and we take them to the cemetery and we inter them. But today, like I had, we had the funeral last Tuesday for this gentleman who passed away. The body was sent for cremation because cremation takes some time. Then it came back in the urn, and then we did the burial today. And that's generally how it goes. Like if someone passes 4 or 5 days later, the cremains come back, and then those are interred.
Could we just wait till it's warmer? Because it's cold out.
Some families will do that, yes. And sometimes, too, we get people who don't have a lot of money. And what people don't realize, some people think, oh my gosh, like the cemeteries, they're charging us an arm and a leg. But cemeteries, or at least the Catholic ones that we have, like these are not for profit. And we don't even necessarily always have perpetual care. But what a cemetery also has to pay for, it would be the guy digging the grave, the grave material itself, all of that kind of stuff. And so whatever's being charged, at least for the 2 cemeteries here, is just to break even. If there's any extra, thank God, that's how we cut grass and then take care of all that stuff. But yeah, so it would be, but it can wait, in the winter, There's a frost fee if it gets too cold. If it's a weekend, there's an additional fee. If there's a holiday, we live in a capitalist society, so you get what you pay for.
I'm taking notes. So my funeral will be in December. Be a little chilly.
Yeah.
I'm wishing for snow.
We are all going to come. Nice try. We're going to break the new rule that says, on Flockton, you got to sign up for death notices. Everybody's getting it. But no time soon, God willing, okay? No time soon.
So when does our soul leave us? And if it's immediate, why have mass and a burial if cremated?
All right, so this is a great question. At the time of passing, we would say when a person's body is no longer physically breathing, the heart stops, etc., then the soul departs from the body. And at that point, the body is dead. When there's no heartbeat, there's no brain activity. And the church also looks at certain other aspects. For example, we all know it's possible to keep a body alive that in effect is dead by the use of artificial
machines.
So when a person dies and artificial means are not used, then we would say the soul would leave the body. The funny thing is, though, the only experience we have as humans is this temporal experience, meaning that things progress in a linear fashion, like today is Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday.
Correct.
It's 1 o'clock, then 2 o'clock, then 3 o'clock. And, in all humility, we have to say, once you die, we don't know what time is like. Is it one eternal, perpetual moment, like where everything happens at once? We just don't know. So what I'll often say to some people with this question is, we can look at trivialized things. Oh, it doesn't matter for them because they're in a different place now. Well, true enough. But we also don't know what that is. To be together as family with those who have died. To invite the whole church together.
Closure.
Closure. And to lift this person up in prayer. That sometimes we'll make the assumption, I'm guilty of it, this person has gone to a better place. But in all honesty, we don't know. We don't know what happens after death. We have faith and we have beliefs, but,
Well, this leads us into our next question.
Oh, okay.
So does everyone go to purgatory and not to heaven?
Well, the church teaches that at our death, there are two possible ending places. One would be heaven, and the other one would be hell, right? And then you have purgatory. So I remember when I used to teach ninth grade religion, when I first became a priest, I taught at St. Francis too. I taught advanced placement Spanish language to the really smart junior seniors, honor Spanish 3, and then ninth grade religion. And I loved ninth grade religion. It was so fun because you had kids who went to Catholic school and knew a lot, or you had homeschool kids who knew a lot. And then one year I had a kid who came in and he goes, "Father, who is this Jesus person?" And I was like, "You mean Jesus?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I still don't know if he was making that up or legit. And I wasn't going to ask. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Who is that person? But they would have great questions, and it'd be something like this. So what I say to people is, at the end of our life, what happens is in a sense, we're the ones who make that determination. People say, well, why does God send it? God doesn't send. God, if anything, says, I will give you what you want. Is this what you want? I will give it to you. So, for example, and not trying to be coy, but just for an idea, suppose that heaven is like an eternal staff meeting. And everybody, I can see your eyes, but everybody can't wait to be there. It's going to be a great time. Everybody's so excited. They're like, yes, I want to go to that place forever. And I'm living my life so I can do that. And God goes, I'm going to give you what I want, what you want. Welcome. And the opposite of that would be hell.
No staff meeting. I'm not sure that's a good example. Because if I have to choose, purgatory... like monthly staff meetings aren't even going to
Purgatory would be the Zoom meeting, okay? All kidding aside, though, right? Like heaven is eternity with God. Hell is eternal separation from God. And I can't even comprehend what eternal separation from God would be like. Because in this life, we are not eternally separated from God. Now, some would say, well, in mortal sin, you're cutting off relation. Yes, you are, but God's relationship is not cut off with you. So God is still there, patiently trying to get into there. Whereas when you're talking about hell and damnation, it's God says, if you don't want to be with me, I will give you what you want. You can have eternity apart from me. And if you want to be with me, I will give you what you want. Yes, let's be together forever.
Well, that was very sobering. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then you got purgatory.
yes.
So purgatory, for some people, love the idea. Some people it drives them crazy. I do think, there's two scripture references always brought up purgatory. The one is 2 Maccabees. What happens is there's a battle, and the Maccabees is always a book about revolution. The Maccabeans are fighting against the Persians who've taken over the nation of Israel. And Judas Maccabeus, Maccabee means the hammer, which is a great name. He's leading this army, and it's always like they have like 10 people, and the enemy's got 1 billion, and they pray to God and they win.
Oh, David and Goliath.
Exactly, on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So in this one battle, they win, but like 15 people die. So, and this is the ironic part, they gather up the corpses to cremate them. And as they're doing this and they're going among the dead, they discover that all the men who have died are wearing these amulets to Jama or Jana or some pagan deity that's not the Lord. So Maccabees, Judas says, take off those amulets. We are going to offer sacrifice for these men so that they are able to enter into paradise. So in that case, what we're looking at is there's some possible way that what we are doing here on earth can assist those who are in the next life to get to heaven. We also have, I think it's 2 Timothy. It's the end of 2 Timothy, and St. Paul is asking for prayers for, I think it's Onesimus, who might be the same guy that the letter to Philemon's written about, the slave. Onesimus, I think. Somebody check your Bible. Put it in the comments when we're wrong. That's okay. Good. And he says, he has passed on. Please pray for him. So if there's no purgatory, what's the point of praying for the deceased, right? So the idea being that they're deceased, and we continue to offer up prayers for them. And the way that I used to explain purgatory to my 9th graders, and the way I still like to do it, is just imagine that heaven is like homecoming or prom. And I taught all boys. And when I would talk to them, I always gave them like the how to get ready for the dance. So it's like, you're going to go home, you're going to take a shower, you're going to wash your hair, you're going to put on deodorant, maybe a incredibly small amount of Axe body spray cologne, incredibly small, smaller than you think, right? Small. Do your hair, put on your best clothing for this event, and then you're going to drive and pick up your date, go out to dinner, and then you're ready to go to the dance. You just don't get out of school in your funk and go to the dance. You need this period of preparation to get ready so that you and your date and everybody there can fully enjoy yourselves. And that's what I think purgatory is like too. God's like, you are good, but we have a couple things during life that we just have to get ready. And it's not that you're a bad person. You're not. We love you, but you are not ready. I mean, C.S. Lewis, when he did The Great Divorce, which by the way is an excellent book, and it's about this guy, this bus caravan through heaven, hell, and purgatory. They're like, these people just aren't ready yet. That he has this image of a mountain, and they're slowly climbing the mountain. As they climb the mountain, they are transformed, and at the end, they're at the top, and they're in heaven, and it's glorious. But there is this process
To get there.
And so much of our own life involves process. It's not just like, I want this, here it is. It's not like a genie and wishes. It's like we do this little bit of work to get ourselves ready. And I just think, honestly, I think it's a genius idea. So great job, God. Like,
Great job, God. Knuckles.
one of my kids once when I see that goes like, thank you, Big G. And I always love that because he'd be like, Big G told me. And I'm like, the friendship, that young man had with the Lord, that he was comfortable. And it was like, Jesus said, Abba, and this kid goes Big G. I'm like, there it goes. There it is.
Greg Boyle has a lot of those different, like his homies call God, like different names. It's a personalized relationship instead of what someone tells you.
Well,
right.
you've now entered into that phase where God is present in your life, or you've hit that friendship with God that so many of the saints talk about is just transformative.
Oh my goodness! Well, we have gone through a lot of questions.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And so we encourage people to continue to submit these because this is the first, not the last of the
absolutely.
hot seat.
Absolutely.
So if you'd like to submit a question, you can do so online, holyfamilyadrian.org. There's a place to ask questions. You can submit an email to Maria, communications at holyfamilyadrian.org. You could submit questions to Father Mike or myself in person. And you could even submit questions on this feed
Right.
YouTube or whatever. So there's plenty of ways, plenty of questions, I'm sure, in people's minds. But we want to thank you for joining us and giving us your theological answers in some cases and your life experience in others.
Well, I'm always up to telling a story. As I always say in my homilies, all of my stories are true. Some of them actually happened.
Could not be more accurate.
Yep, I think the Bible's like that too. But oops.
Well, that's another day, another dollar. So thank you, Father Mike, for joining us.
You are welcome, Katie. Thank you for this opportunity.
And we will see you next time on the hot seat.
Amen.